afternoon. This is Paula Glenn. Thank you for joining the second part of our four-part series on Microsoft Windows Virtual Desktop Solutions. I am Paula Glenn, Chief Marketing Officer for Coretek Services. I will be your host for today's session. A few housekeeping items. We will be recording the session today. Please note that all phones will be on mute. We will open the lines for questions at the end of the presentation, and please feel free to utilize the chat window if you would like to queue a question for the presenter. The presentation and the presenter recording will be available after the session. Today's speaker is Brian Barnes. Brian Barnes is the Chief Technology Officer at Coretek Services, an industry-leading and nationally recognized IT consulting firm. Coretek's goal is to facilitate large enterprise clients and prospective customers to achieve and sustain predictable and effective IT solutions. Our mission, project success, no exceptions. Brian leads the solution architecture team. They are responsible for working with customers, vendors, and account teams to design an accurate and flexible solution-based approach to our customers' unique business and technical requirements. This is made possible by utilizing the complete portfolio of Coretek's cloud, product, and services offerings. The Coretek Solutions Architecture team has engineered hundreds of large and most complicated enterprise solutions deployed across the globe. Brian continues to speak and present on new and emerging technologies internationally as well as regional events across the country. We are pleased to have Brian here today to speak on the topic, Citrix Workspace and VDI Profile Management Briefing. I will turn the session over to Brian.
Good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be. This is Brian Barnes, CTO at Coretek Services, and today we're going to be covering the Citrix Workspace service and how to build out a successful WVD management profile in terms of onboarding your Azure capability. So let's just jump in real quick from a introduction perspective. Coretek Services works aggressively with our customers and our partners to achieve cloud-based results for using Azure as well as Citrix, as well as an ecosystem of other partners for an opportunity for success. So we're really happy that you're with us today, and as Paula mentioned, please input any chat-related questions that you have, and we'll do our best to answer them today. So jumping real in quickly, so what is Citrix Workspace Service? So as we kind of look at different multiple cloud and SaaS-based solutions, we are transforming the way that we work as not only as an organization, but as we do personally with a anywhere, any device mentality. We have a lot of complexities in terms of what is building up that transformation. Whether we're building up a desktop and using applications in a more legacy or traditional way, accessing data within the office or at home, as well as accessing specific data sets that might be on-premise within our four walls of our data centers or in cloud-hosted file storage. The complexity is really driving transformation in how we work in a cloud mobile era. And so the technology that makes life complicated for us at times is a lot of us personally have 3 to 4 devices that we're working with within the day. We're switching from a context perspective every 2 minutes as we get notifications on our phones, as emails are coming into our desktop. We're switching between those devices, between those applications at a very quick and alarming rate. 20% of our time is really spent within applications searching for data, as well as a typical user using between 4 to 6 applications a day. That, as well as us being mobile, we're looking and working within 3, sometimes 4 locations per day, as well as losing our productivity against different accounts, different passwords, as well as authentication methods that continue to be cumbersome for our users to engage with. So that complexity overall, average from a Gartner perspective, is averaging $800 per user per year in lost productivity in terms of just those key bullet points and items. So one of the things that we're really excited to work with and really have been having a lot of success out there in the field is Citrix Workspace. And Workspace is a really new and collaborative way to work, melding in multiple different application strategies as well as content collaboration in a single workspace. And across that technology stack, it's really bridging the gap between a unified endpoint management system that controls our mobile experience, as well as how to bridge that content collaboration across multiple SaaS and web platforms. Whether we're jumping into applications or into our specific desktops, we need a better way, a more secure way to intelligently work throughout our day. Citrix Workspace service really onboards our capability and bridges a lot of capability into a more productive workforce, and driving in towards consistent user experience is a way to do it. So as we look across what a unified experience looks like, we'll actually see that same user experience being driven from a traditional Windows endpoint or a mobile platform, iOS or Android. And the way that we work is consistent between the devices, whether we're accessing our applications, our desktops, or directly into content. A dynamic user experience is given as we merge and move throughout our day with the different applications that we interface with. Workspace Platform is really a transformative aspect of not only how we work, but how we administer and spin up the workloads within it. So as we need new applications to be onboarded within our environment, bridging into multiple geos or specific Azure regions, whether we're merging multiple data centers together to deliver different resource types and different resource groups within our four walls of our different data centers, we need a cloud evergreen environment to be able to deliver that. And so Citrix Cloud, as part of a Workspace platform, is really a key piece to the overall success of not only how we use the technology, but from an IT perspective, how we administer and manage it. Top benefits of the Workspace, Citrix Workspace, is really creating an employee experience that helps them work more intelligently, whether it's unified access or driving better content collaboration. It really provides a flexibility that gives our users an increase in productivity, but also the ability for us to transact our work more effectively. And the mindset in terms of driving that capability has always been how do we deliver these experiences in a most secure, most refined way so that we can be confident that our data is held in the locations that they should be, and not traversing or creating exposure to sensitive content that we might be working with from our user perspective. Being able to build out a workspace and manage that workspace with a mindset of security is a top priority for most organizations today. One of the things that we do is we build the workspace, we want to guide our user experience through how the users work. And so being able to understand the applications that they interface with, the specific workflows within the application, and bringing those workflows to the forefront is a way to automate our capabilities for our users to transact that work even more effectively. And so when we streamline those workflows, whether it's jumping into a SaaS-based application, authenticating to it, and then driving into the specific screens that a task is to be performed, we can now intelligently take that task to the forefront of our workspace experience and drive that automation directly from the workspace. And so that's really done from a micro apps and microservices perspective out of that intelligent workspace atmosphere. Really removing all the complexity and the distraction of trying to authenticate to our application, that's done as a basis and a jump point as part of our workspace experience. The goal here is to really organize and unify that experience for our users and our specific businesses that we collaborate with. Single sign-on is a key piece to that. And so as we drive into the different user workflows and the devices, we really want to perform an assessment and drive into a understanding of the different devices that our users are interacting with. Being able to support multiple mobility platforms as well as different OS types, and even into different capabilities around more Chromebooks or different devices that are non-traditional Windows endpoints. That specific user experience needs to traverse across all of those platforms. And being Citrix has receiver versions as well as workspace clients that enable that for that single user experience is a critical piece to the overall equation to that. The single sign-on aspect of that is whether you're logging into the applications via a Microsoft, Azure, MFA or even a Citrix SSO capability, you're driving into your authentication mechanism once as you build into those specific workflows is the key piece to that equation. So we definitely want to understand how our users work within the workspace, but eliminating the multiple sign-ons is a key piece to increasing the productivity for our users. Again, kind of driving into that organizational aspect, as we kind of build out these the workspaces that our users interact with, we want to also give a specific branding and feel for our users. Having a consistent work experience also is driving to where things reside and where things stay within their workspace. And so whether you're interacting with files or having notifications through an activity reminder, these should be the areas that we focus into the overall workspace design. So we're driving the most effective collaboration environment for our users to drive their experience through. We do this by building up our specific areas and sections within our workspace, by building feeds and micro apps within your main notification window. As we build our applications and desktop strategies, they're moving to a single location to always see where those are being prompted and delivered to. We're organizing them based upon most access as well as most important to their workday. And then we're creating additional search and virtual assistance options so that if users do get stuck, they know where to traverse and ask the right questions to build in where they need to go to find the specific things they might not normally access on a day-to-day basis. So as we start the design aspects of how Citrix Workspace can best work for our users, the overall UI or approach into the design aspects of Workspace is critical in terms of understanding. And so as we maximize those engagements across multiple platforms, we also have to leverage content collaboration strategies with Citrix Files, as well as endpoint management with secure mail strategies for the applications that we use from a SaaS basis. So having those workflows being defined and building up those initial workflows through understanding how our users work throughout the day, we want to build those content collaboration strategies as well as being able to drive in specific requests from our users on how they need to work so that those can be architected and kind of built into the overall process that our users can use. So whether it's accessing files for the first time or accessing mail attachments from secure mail, the goal here is to really understand what the user's needs are and drive that into the overall control of our mobile devices and platforms. One thing that's important to understand is our users tend to work with the technology that they're most familiar with. So whether it's on an iOS device or a Mac OS, whether they're comfortable using Android or traditional Windows platforms, we want to have that freedom of choice for our users by having the confidence in an IT perspective on how we control that environment. So Workspace apps works on any browser as well as Android, Mac OS, and iOS devices and Windows. From an endpoint management perspective, all the platforms that you would engage with in the ecosystem are supported, as well as being able to access and control the content collaboration in Citrix Files using Box or OneDrive, Dropbox, or ShareFile. It's critical to have an environment that not only supports, but being able to control the workflow and the security of those applications and the specific data that your users interact with. Benefits of Workspace is, again, as you can see, it's a transformative experience for your employees and for your users. It keeps talent focused and fully engaged where they are most needed and activated within their work stream. One of the things that it also does is it creates a self-service of automation. And so as users work throughout their day, they can submit requests in terms of being able to access new areas that they might not have. We can interface that into specific applications or systems that you support within your environment to create those tickets and workflows to be able to add that content for them dynamically, and being able to modernize that user experience and make life easier for our workers. Again, it's trying to unify all of the assets and activities that they have for their specific workflows in their days and driving the capability to have them work more efficiently. One key piece to this, and really what's important to understand is even though we might traditionally support these environments on-prem, We also are driving them into the cloud. And one unique offering that is relatively new and exciting, driving a lot of buzz out there, is Windows Virtual Desktops called WVD, and how that's leveraged from an Azure perspective as a unique solution that customers are looking to adopt and understand. Citrix out of the gate has supported day one support of WVD, and really enables the consumption of WVD in a more automated control way. We're going to dig into a little bit that, a little bit right now, and just give a brief high-level overview of what it is from an Azure perspective we're architecting and building in from a Workspace perspective. So Azure obviously has agreements, accounts, and subscriptions, and so through that process we're building up IaaS components, storage, as well as disks and CPU and core needs for our workspace and for our specific instances that we have desktops and apps running within. And then we're building up and accessing multiple subscriptions at a time based upon the workload and the design you have within your Azure subscription. Virtual apps and desktops being able to be architected in multiple different ways, as well as different license types on how you architect the overall environment within Azure. So the three different areas that we can take our Citrix licensing capability is being able to build out what's referred to as a DIY model, taking your license from a partner managed perspective or a license that you own in Azure, consuming that as part of a virtual applications and desktop service strategy, which leverages Citrix Cloud, which is fully managed by Citrix and stays evergreen, so that you don't have to upgrade your on-premise environments year after year, keeping up the pace of innovation that Citrix and Microsoft work with, and really depending upon the Citrix Cloud to drive that innovation at a more aggressive rate, and you be able to control the adoption of that innovation based upon the VDAs that you're upgrading with your server and desktop VDAs, as well as a new offering called CMD, or Citrix Managed Desktops. So as part of a desktop offering, we as not only Citrix, but also as Coretek can provide support and services around Citrix Cloud, as well as management of VDAs within the Citrix Cloud to give you a better overall support experience for your Citrix assets. One big thing to understand is since Windows Virtual Desktop is relatively new, what we're seeing is there's a lot of kind of getting off the ground aspect of what you can and can't do within managing your Windows Virtual Desktop natively. One of the things that is great to see and be a part of is Citrix is far ahead of the game in terms of being able to automate and create a lot of technology that enables our users to have a better user experience around WVD, and those value-added services are shown here just as kind of a high-level approach of how that success is being seen. One thing is provisioning, being able to provision your Citrix workload using machine creation services, or layering applications on and within those specific images, as well as being able to optimize, because of a more mature protocol from an HDX perspective, your Microsoft Teams experience or Office 365, as well as being able to provide those security perimeters with app protection and analytics that really drive a more, I guess, feeling of comfort around what you're delivering out in the cloud ecosystem. A real quick high-level example of what Citrix Cloud and Azure Cloud pieces, or where they are and where they reside. Starting from left to right, obviously Citrix Cloud being a SaaS platform and a management plane has the specific infrastructure and management controls of your overall Citrix environment, as well as the specific pieces that reside within your Azure Cloud to be able to drive your specific VDAs or service principals for accessing your specific resources and different items within your Azure environment, including files and desktops and applications. And then the specific management portal side is that you do manage your Azure environment within your Azure portal, and then you'll have a second management plane within for your Citrix workload that combines the management approach between a Citrix Cloud management plane and an Azure management plane. So between those two environments, being able to proliferate your your specific VDA workloads within Azure is an easy and quick process. Just kind of walking through a little bit of the overall Azure Compute differences, right? So if some of you had some experience with Microsoft Azure and seeing the different IaaS types or infrastructure as a service types, you'll see different A series, B series, D series type of compute components. And so this is a quick way to understand what some of those differences are. Some of your entry level, lower cost A series. They have B series that are more tuned for cost optimized burstable components. General purpose is where we do a lot of our specific memory or compute side calculations on what our applications and different Citrix tiers will need. Compute intensive will drive higher core counts and lower memory density. Memory optimized in your M series will actually do the reverse, a higher memory, lower core counts, as well as being able to drive CAD, CAM experiences through GPU accelerated N series instances. It's nice to have not only a plethora of different options to use as part of our user experience, but also the ability to fine tune that based upon our cost and consumption expectations, both monthly and yearly. From an Azure Storage side, there's really 4 different types. So Azure HDD, Standard SSD, Premium SSD, and now Ultra SSD. And as you can see from a size perspective, they're pretty consistent. The Ultra SSD tiers are really getting into the some millisecond latency and driving into higher sizes for 64 terabytes. From the IOPS perspective, you can see the performance of that scales up as you move into the premium and ultra tiers. And ultra, obviously, from a premium perspective, driving 80,000 to 160,000 IOPS for our workload is something that's really going to not only drive a user experience, but also from a calculation perspective, a lot more cost within our workload. So something to be cognizant of as we start architecting those solutions. As well as the increase in specific IOPS, we also see the increase in bandwidth to those storage tiers. So as we can see, 500 megabits per second up to 2,000 megabits per second as we start architecting what's available in those IaaS instance types. We kind of mentioned before that machine creation services is a provisioning platform built into Citrix Virtual Apps Desktop Services and Citrix Workspace Premium that allows us to deliver and provision VDA workload not only on-premise, but now taking that same image and building it out into our specific Azure or cloud regions. So using MCS to deploy empty resource groups as well as maintain master images that automate the creation of those identical catalogs that we build out for our scale and for our users, as well as just managing our master images against that existing virtual disk and snapshot methodologies. We can also build those MCS strategies around specific resource groups, as well as within our specific subscriptions that we need for our overall Azure architecture. Lastly, as we kind of build out our Windows Virtual Desktop profile around what those machine types are, we'll kind of look and understand some of the cost differences as you kind of build up your compute strategies within Azure. So looking at those specific task workers or knowledge workers that build in the overall density aspects of those instance types, again, looking at an 8-core IaaS instance type for performance cost per hour, we can see that we can get a lot more users in a D13 V2 of task workers coming in at 54 as opposed to a knowledge worker who is usually seeing somewhere between 35, 38 users per instance, right? And so now that we have the capability to leverage Windows 10 multi-session, now we can see 38 knowledge workers on a D13 V2 and 54 knowledge workers, task workers on a D13 V2 using Windows 10 multi-session. So typically we'd have to do this with server-based OSs, and now we can see for those specific user types as we scale from E13s all the way down into E8 V3s, we can see how some of the cost per hour structure as well as the user density per IaaS instance types are affected across those different tiers. So as we kind of scale, the specific trend lines, we can see we're going to be driving the lowest cost per user in our F8 V2s on the knowledge worker side. D8 V3s on our knowledge worker side with 24 users. And from a cost per hour perspective, 33 users coming in under 20 cents per hour per user there using a D8 V3. So there's a lot of different metrics out there, and obviously that's dependent upon the applications that you're running. Those density numbers are really based upon a normal task worker using 1 or 2 applications, maybe office-based applications that browse the web. A knowledge worker would have a more intensive workload, driving 4 to 5 applications open and being used, with maybe even more performance needed from an aspect of accessing different backend applications or databases needing that's going to spin a little bit of more performance out of that use case. As we can kind of also see, judging between the FS V2 and the DV2 instance types, we can also see some of those trend lines change between task workers and knowledge workers, right? So as we see 5 users driving the smaller instance type starting at the left, you can see we can really get aggressive from a cost perspective per user per hour as we drive into some of those F2 V2 instances, and then all the way up into higher, you driving a lot more cost, up to 4.5 cents per user per hour into the F16 V2. So as you can see, some of those trend lines change based upon not only the user type, but also what you need to do from an IaaS instance type to drive the most cost-effective consumption rationale into your overall design. A lot of times, Coretek will spend a lot of time in an assessment period of an overall project to understand what the applications are doing, so that we can also leverage the right IaaS instance types and performance expectations to drive that cost down per user. And as you can see, there's a lot of different variances that come within that. Lastly, I kind of want to end with Coretek offer. So Coretek Services is a Microsoft Lighthouse partner, as well as a Microsoft Azure Expert MSP partner. We have partnerships across the WVD ecosystem with Lakeside Software and Citrix being a platinum partner, as well as a next generation Edge OS called iGel. So driving these solutions as part of your adoption strategy for cloud desktops and Citrix Workspace services is a key piece of what Coretek does, and does very, very well. We'd love to engage with you and understand your needs so that we can help you achieve your best project success.
Great. Thank you, Brian. We appreciate your insight in the topic on how Citrix Workspace and WVD profile management can provide real value to an organization. We do have a few questions in the chat window. We will start with those. And then if there's any additional questions from the audience, you can, of course, put them into the chat window, and I can open up the audio after we walk through these questions for any additional ones. So the first one was, and that was my question actually, you mentioned Lighthouse. What is a Lighthouse partner?
So Microsoft has specific programs, and they name them different things. One of the things programs that was created back when Windows Virtual Desktop launched in September, early October, was onboarding specific Lighthouse customers being a beacon of transformative technology using Windows Virtual Desktop. When I say Lighthouse, it's really a program and a partner ecosystem that's driving Azure consumption and adoption, as well as a cloud-based desktop using Citrix to automate a lot of that capability.
All right, thank you. We have a question here from the audience. What if I'm not using Citrix Workspace today, but I am using Citrix products? How do I get started?
So one of the things to understand of need, if you're looking at Windows Virtual Desktop and you own a perpetual Citrix Virtual Applications and Desktop license, to consume Windows Virtual Desktop and use it within Azure, you do need Citrix Cloud Service, which is part of the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service or Citrix Workspace Service license type. So as you kind of gauge your experience and leveraging your intent to use Azure, there might be some license assessment that needs to be done in terms of what you own or what you might need to do that.
Thank you. This is a fun one. How can I onboard my CISO into the business case to deploy this?
That's a great question. So one of the things that we've really seen a lot of great traction with, in early conversations, security has always come up, right? One of the things that customers earlier are about is putting their information and data into the public cloud. One of the things that we spend a lot of time, especially in the early parts of discussions with our customers, is helping them understand and identify how to successfully build out an Azure region and wrap security perimeter around it so that when we onboard that capability, we're doing that even in a more secure fashion than we would from an on-premise perspective. So as we engage into those early conversations and talk to the CISO and level and security folks, it's helping them and educating them on how to correctly architect that solution to achieve their overall security goals.
Great, thank you. What considerations do I need to plan for in selecting pilot user types or personas for a WVD program?
Great question. So normally, if we're getting started as a brand new project and haven't really had any cloud experience for our virtual applications and desktops, you'll typically want to start with some level of assessment. Obviously, if you want to do a proof of concept or POC and select a specific user type, maybe it's a task worker that, a reception area, or, in the healthcare side, there's a remote coder that uses one or two applications. Those are great candidates and more simplistic use case that we can get some fast traction with. And as we start to bridge that out and get a more broader view of how we engage our different use cases, our environment, and in our environments, that's when the assessment piece comes in. And typically, we're using a product called Lakeside that'll do that cloud-based assessment to understand what your on-premise workload looks like, application usage, as well as application focus time for those users, and then architect out of that assessment the proper Azure strategy to deliver that user experience.
Thank you. Any suggestions on how a person can keep up with all of these new solutions? Are there websites, blogs? Where can I go to get more information other than the Coretek website?
Yeah, good plug there, Paul. So yeah, obviously there's a ton of information out there. There's a ton of different release things that come up. To be honest, as a CTO and being involved in a lot of different technology that our company interacts with, there's a lot of social media benefits that you can gain by leveraging the specific groups and following aspects of our partner ecosystem, right? So whether you're a Citrix or a VMware partner, whether you're a Microsoft customer, being able to follow some of those key product development pieces and announcements, it really is helpful for me. So I can see a lot of those first kind of warning, product announcements coming out through social media. So, obviously Twitter is a big piece of that, as well as LinkedIn. I see those two platforms being most used in terms of product announcements.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, we're kind of getting to the end of our time here. So I want to thank the audience for your attention today. I hope you found this informative. Within the handouts, there are the downloads for the presentation, as well as some information around WVD and a little more information around the offer that Brian has thrown out there for the Coretek assessment. Mark your calendars for the upcoming sessions. The next one will be February 26th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The topic is IGEL and Windows Virtual Desktop. And on March 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll be talking about Lakeside, WVD use case assessment and mapping. That was pretty exciting. A lot of tools and technology embedded in that one. We look forward to seeing everybody at those two events. For more information, go to coretek.com/events for details and register for those. Thank you for your attention. Take care.
Thank you.